everyone, and welcome to Season 7, Episode 20 of Pro Wrestling's Top 50. I'm your host, Travis McNeil, and today we continue our countdown of the top 50 matches in CHIKARA history with match number 31 on our list, which is the finals of the King of Trios tournament between the Spectral Envoy of UltraMantis Black, Hallowicked, and Frightmare, and Team Ring of Honor of Mike Bennett and the Young Bucks, Matt and Nick Jackson, from the CHIKARA King of Trios 2012 Night 3 event held on September the 16th, 2012. I've said it, I think Night 3 of King of Trios 2012 is one of the best CHIKARA events of all time, and this was the cherry on the top, the finals of the tournament. When you think Team Ring of Honor, maybe not the best representation of Ring of Honor with this team, but it worked in that, these three guys were smarmy heels that, cheated and, their way through the tournament, but also backed it up with really good in-ring work, got under the crowd's skin and, raised their ire all the way through and ended up, across the ring from one of the bigger babyface groups of CHIKARA in 2012, making a very fitting finals. The ROH guys are so great at the start of this, just being disrespectful and, pie-facing everybody. One thing I really wanted to give a shout out for Mike Bennett for his performance, in through the 2012 King of Trios tournament. Mike Bennett's somebody now, that I think maybe to a point has gotten a little bit more credit. He's a really, really talented pro wrestler. The WWE stuff, didn't really work out for him. Various stints in Ring of Honor and Impact and things like that. Now it's, it seems like he's going to be sticking around in AEW, which is really good because he's just a really solid, good hand that can make guys look really, really well, really, really good. But in this point in 2012, he felt like he was kind of over pushed in Ring of Honor, a little, I don't even want to say green because I don't know what his experience level was at that point, but just kind of generic, I hate to say it, WWE kind of developmental sort of guy. But man alive, he put in a really great performance at King of Trios, and it was up until this point the best work I'd seen out of him, and he really fit in well and really hung in there with the Young Bucks, who were just charisma magnets, and at this point, and having Maria by his side certainly helped. She added to the whole package with her distractions and her cheating throughout the tournament. This match is just your typical baby faces versus heels, with the crowd really, really wanting one team to win and ultimately leading to a really great, satisfying conclusion. There's nothing, too crazy in this match or anything like that, but it tells an excellent story. It's got a very hot crowd. It's got great action. And like I said, it really has that satisfaction with the big finish. Frightmare, through this story that they had in King of Trios 2012, he's got a bad knee. The Spectral Envoy were attacked by the Batiri and Ophidian and Delirious, whom they were feuding with at this point in CHIKARA history, and they took out the knee of Frightmare. So obviously the heels make that their focal point of this match. We get a really long heat sequence on Frightmare after he gets tripped out by Maria climbing the top, gets stuck in a tree of woe, and the heels go to work on his knee. There's a lot of really good teases of, hot tags that are getting cut off, with the faces getting pulled off the apron and distractions and everything like that. And he, finally makes the tag. Wicked and Mantis, they run wild and hit all of this great tandem offense. And UltraMantis hits Cosmic Doom, which was his finishing move at the time, and only gets a 2 count. And then the heels cut the baby faces off with, a pair of super kicks. Mike Bennett gets a big series of near falls, and it feels like, that the air is kind of leaving the crowd, and it seems like the ROH team might do it, especially when the Young Bucks take out UltraMantis Black with an Indie Taker, the springboard tombstone on the ramp. Bennett hits a big TKO, and Nick Jackson hits a 450. It seems like it might be the finish, but it was only a 2, and this leads to this great, extended finishing sequence with high drama and story weaved into it. And it's where the match really, really excels. The Bucks, they try to put Mantis away. UltraMantis is, the lovable loser, I'll say, of CHIKARA, one of its most popular stars, all through its history, but someone that, up until this point had never really, won anything. He wasn't grand champion. He's never won a tag world or a Young Lions Cup or King of Trios or anything like that. You know, he's come kind of close, but, you know, seems like he's never going to get his big moment. And he seemed like someone that at this point, you know, in 2012 was maybe starting to wind down his career a little bit. So, you know, it seems like the Bucks are going to finish him off, but he won't die. Like I say, he takes the big indie taker and, you know, manages to kick out and fight back. And it leads to this moment, you know, where the faction that they were feuding with, you know, Delirious' stable of the Batiri and Ophidia, they make their way down to the ring to try to interfere. And it leads to this great return from Crossbones, who we hadn't seen in several years, who, you know, was an old member of the Dark Breed with Mantis and Hallowicked. You know, he makes his triumphant return and kind of runs them all off. Delirious takes like a wild bump off the ramp into the ring post head first. And as, you know, this big brawl is happening on the floor, UltraMantis, you know, gets the big moment of the match, the big spotlight, and he hits a superplex on Matt Jackson from the top rope all the way down to the pile on the floor. That's something that, you know, in independent wrestling matches and scrambles and things like that, you know, you see kind of routinely now. But in 2012, it was something that you didn't get to see a lot. So, you know, it felt kind of unique. We saw that in early, you know, scramble matches in Ring of Honor. I remember the Amazing Red suplexing like Dixie or Deranged or someone from Special K like out to the floor onto a pile. So, you know, this was kind of a callback to that 10 years later. But again, you know, it felt unique. It felt reckless. It felt fun. And that leaves, you know, Mike Bennett and Hallowicked in the ring. Hallowicked gets the Chikara special on Bennett, and they tie in, you know, the whole run of Team ROH through the tournament. Maria gets up on the apron and, you know, uses her sex appeal to distract Bryce Remsburg. It seems like, you know, that same thing that's happened over and over and over again is going to happen once again, because Nick Jackson comes in and super kicks Hallowicked. But then accidentally misses a super kick and hits Maria off the apron, so she finally gets her comeuppance. They take the Jacksons out. Hallowicked is able to avoid, you know, a big move from Mike Bennett and locks him back in the Chikara special, and that's enough to get the submission and get the win for the Envoy, and a huge, huge pop from the capacity crowd there in Easton, Pennsylvania. I, you know, love this match. I do kind of have, you know, some suggestions, you know, so many years later that could have, you know, made the finish a little bit better. Given that this kind of felt like it was supposed to be Mantis's moment, you know, him being the one to get the win with the Chikara special instead of, you know, Wicked, maybe would have meant a little bit more. Or personally, if they were going to have Wicked be the one that wins, instead of the Chikara special, I would have loved to have seen him use the Fisherman's Buster off of the top, because that's how he won the original Young Lions Cup tournament, how he won the original Tag World Grand Prix tournament. And I would have loved to have seen him use it to win King of Trios as well and kind of complete, you know, that trifecta of tournament wins for him. But, you know, small criticism aside, you know, 10 years later, you know, the finish was great. The crowd loved it. This is just a super, super fun match. And it's funny because in 2012, it really seemed like, you know, finally Mantis kind of got that, you know, feather in his cap, and this would be, you know, his crowning accomplishment in Chikara, but he would actually go on to end up winning the Grand Championship from Hallowicked, you know, several years later in the weird, you know, kind of mystery season that got released all at once as like a bingeable sort of Netflix thing. I wasn't a fan of, you know, that kind of effect because it led, you know, to what should have been this great moment of Mantis winning the title in front of a hot crowd. You know, he kind of won it in this secret kind of studio show and then showed up at the National Pro Wrestling Day wearing the title, you know, allowing all the fans to be confused. And it just kind of robbed the fans of what should have been a big moment. But thankfully, they got that moment with Mantis here that they so desperately craved. This is just, you know, face versus heel wrestling at its best. I love King of Trios. I love nothing more than when a tournament's final match is the best match of the tournament, and that is exactly what happened here. A great, like I said, you know, cherry on top of what was an excellent weekend. You know, that got a lot of notoriety for Chikara at the time. And, you know, one of my personal favorite Chikara shows of all time being Night 3 of King of Trios 2012. You can watch this match, of course, on independentwrestling.tv. You can subscribe to my channel here on YouTube so that you never miss a video. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Wrestling50. And please join me again next time as we continue to count down Pro Wrestling's Top 50.